Hi everyone, welcome back. I uploaded a video quite late last night. It had 100 views overnight, so it seems pretty good, that one. That's the calf in there. Sorry Daniel, don't look, it's hideous. I actually cleaned, look, I pushed everything to the side. I've emailed a couple of companies to figure out how they bore it out and what they're going to do and how they do it and who provides the pistons. I just don't have enough knowledge on that stuff to do that. Honestly, normally I'll buy a big bore kit on eBay or something, and you get everything with that. So I don't understand this kind of boring out manually. So I'm going to look into it. My plan is to get it done, so that I can show you guys kind of what to do and how to do it. But I'm not overly knowledgeable on that stuff. I have done top engine rebuilds, but I just follow the manual basically, guys, and normally get lucky. Today's video is about Sue's bike, Aunty Sue's bike. I've been waiting on, sponsored by Pepsi Max, by the way, guys, which I'm not. But if anyone knows Pepsi and would like to throw me a few, I'd be very grateful. Okay, so the new starter relay came last week. What I should have done was I should have chucked that on, but I wanted to save it for this video, understandably, except I now don't know if that's going to solve the actual starting problem. Secondly, the new fuel pump has arrived. It took a long time though, it took 7 days, which is annoying. It should have been 2 to 3. Now, let me explain why I ordered a fuel pump. Someone mentioned that the fuel overflows. So on the drip system I'm using, the fuel can overflow and it can go into the engine. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Except you kind of also are wrong. Now I'll explain why. Carbs like this, okay, carburetors, they have safety nets. The overflow pipe itself, as long as they are not blocked, they will flow before the flow goes into the engine. So that's one thing. Second thing is the seals. The seals, if it's kind of overwhelmed, the actual seats would normally seep. Third is, I had this tested with the airbox off to check. You would see some overspill that way, although looking at this engine and carbs, it is tilted this way. So I can see how you wouldn't necessarily see that it would all go that way. And of course you have the actual floats and the float valves themselves. So it would take a hell of a lot for the fuel to keep flowing and go into the engine. However, if you got unlucky and the actual overflow tubes were blocked and blah blah blah, then yes, you would have fuel in your oil would overflow, and you'd end up with constantly having too high oil, which we may or may not be having, and you'd get all that problem. So I've ordered the fuel pump just to be right, just to make sure it's done properly. You can't go wrong there then, can you? I've ordered some brand new oil as well. I'm not going to get this thing started and keep running on this oil. I'm going to start again. So first thing I need to do is unhook this relay, hitch it to the new one. That's simple. Now I'm going to show you at the moment this battery is charged, and it is a good battery. Press the button, listen to the click. So just because it's clicking, it doesn't mean it's actually working, guys. Because it could be clicking and the internals are just wrecked. Something's trying to work, but it's not. We need to make sure the new relay isn't overwhelmed by a bad starter. That's a possibility. If it just kind of turns over nicely and easily the whole time, which I'm only going to press it once or twice, guys. I'm not going to hold it. I don't want it to fire up. Next thing is oil drop completely. Drop all the oil, get it all out. Because we're starting again in that sense. Disconnect the petrol tank so no more fuel can fall in, if that's what's happening. I don't think it is. And yes, so we'll check the relay. We'll drop the oil. we'll disconnect the fuel for now and see how that goes. Sue, if you're watching, or Rob, talk to Sue. I'm very happy to matte black this bike for you. I've got some high temp paint for the exhaust. That's going to look nice. I'm very happy to matte black the whole bike, and it will look really nice matte black. It will not be fuel proof. You'll have to be careful when filling it up. But to be fair, you can touch it up every 6 months with the paint I use on the tank. So if you'd like me to matte black these panels, let me know. I think it will look great, and I'll do that after it's kind of actually running and serviced and MOT'd. But I know you had the paint, Sue, and I know you were keen to do it yourself. I'm happy to spray any matte colour. Matte just goes on nicer for me. I'm better with it. So let me know about that if you'd like me to do that. Otherwise, don't worry about it. I'll do all the cleaning and everything else and get it through its MOT and get it back to you. So keep it simple. I'm going to swap this relay. I'm doing nothing else, guys. I'm not messing with the battery. I'm not cutting and doing something dodgy. Simple switch. Put the new on. Press the button. If it turns, I don't want it to fire up. Will then be moving to drop in the oil. Fingers crossed. I really want to get this bike running for Sue. So I've disconnected the battery just so we're not messing around with this reconnection. Simple switch over here. So we are connected. Obviously a few things can happen here. Let's see if the ignition comes on. Okay, so it didn't blow. Let's see if the burn turns the engine at all. I don't want a running engine. Guys, very, very pleased. Okay, good. Solenoid. I knew it was the solenoid the whole time. I'd love. Let me get a flathead on this bad boy. So I mean, there's loads and loads of corrosion in there. And look, you can see, look, rust on here. So this was just past it, which is absolutely fine. The replacement's well worth doing. New one's on there and good and ready to go. Great. What did I say next? Oil drop. Oil drop completely. Fresh oil. I need to go and get that. It's indoors. And oh, this is good, guys. I'll disconnect the fuel. Make sure it's not dripping in there. So far, so good. I'm very pleased. Sue will be very pleased. Rob will be very pleased. Okay, guys. So slow, cold, gloopy, oily drop because the engine's not warm. Or extremely watery oil drop. Jesus Christ. So guys, I kind of have to withdraw my last statement, although I also kind of don't. This is water. Look. My God. Not fuel. There's no obvious sign of fuel in there, although actually there is a touch. I don't think that's from my I don't think that's from my system, although it can be, hence why we're swapping it over. That is shocking. Shocking. That is water. I'm really glad I haven't run this bike too long at all. The engine sounds fine. It doesn't sound damaged. The new oil will sort that out. One thing I didn't do, which is really annoying, is I completely forgot to get a filter. Now I'm going to whip this filter off and clean it out and use it, because normally that is okay, but I think I will be switching that over before it goes back to Sue. So I'll order the new filter, but I'm going to use this one for a few days, but I'm going to clean it out fully. So I'm shocked. I'm really shocked, guys. You saw that come out on the last video. It come out as water and it's cold. I mean, that's crazy. I'm draining the fuel tank right now so that we can get the fuel pump back on, and I'm going to continue to drain the oil. That's not all of it. I've just tipped some back into the oil jug, so I need to keep draining out this oil, and I want to let it kind of keep seeping out. Not that that's an issue, it's water. And then I'm going to look at where we go from there. I'm shocked, guys, by the way. I'm shocked. I've never seen I mean, I have seen that. It's normally rainwater. But yeah, at least we've caught it now before there's any engine damage. I cannot see or hear any engine damage, so we're in good shape at the moment. Okay, guys, just to keep you informed, I've run a new suction hose. The old one was a bit thin, and some idiot tied loads of knots in it to stop it sucking last time. It wasn't me. New suction line, main hose here is attached, so all I need to do now is connect the tank and put it all back together. Basically, it should be fine. What's interesting on this bike is that tank does not have any fuel sender, no way of sending how much fuel there is, but the Clocks has that, and also the bike has a reserve. So I wonder if they're modern clocks, what's happened there, or if it detects fuel somewhere else, like maybe somewhere in the level. Anyway, yeah, it has a fuel reader, a gauge, and it doesn't work, and I don't think it will, because there's nothing on here that it would connect to. You'd have a connector up here normally that goes into the tank. So yeah, I'm just hooking all that back up, top it up with oil, check the oil levels right, throw the tank back on, tape up all of these bridging wires that I did, because I was testing them, weren't I? And idle it for a while, run it up and down the road. Last time it cut out every time before I even made it down, but it makes sense now that it had water in it instead of oil. So I'll idle it up, get this oil circulated, get everything loosened up, and take it for a spin. Hopefully it's all running good. I'm going to check and top up the cooling system, make sure that's all good, and then it'll be jet wash. Just get it nice and clean, and then neatening like the exhaust and stuff like that, and we'll check everything, indicators and everything else. So it's kind of okay at the moment, guys. I think it's okay, but let's get some oil circulated and see what's going on there. Once I've done, obviously, the fuel suction system back to normal. Okay everyone, so let's just look at what we've done. We've got the new suction tube that's on. The actual pump is in the right location, and it's all hooked up correctly and appropriately. I did have to extend the lines, but that's fine. I bought some new line anyway. Obviously we need to fill up the tank, and we need to see that it's all sealed, because last time it seemed fine, but it was leaking out of here, wasn't it? And if we have that same problem, I'm going to be so pissed, because I waited a week for this. I've not topped up the oil yet. I'm going to go and get the oil now. It's not actually topping up, is it? It's filling up. I've not filled up the oil. I'm going to then fill up the oil, get this thing started, idling for a good few minutes, get that oil circulating. Ideally take it for a spin, and then I'm going to cake it in engine degreaser. Look at the back wheel, it's shocking. Look at the engine. Cake it in degreaser and go and get it to the jet wash and give it a good old jet wash. Now this jet wash is going to do good and bad. It's going to wash all the crap off, but it's going to wash some of the paint and stuff off. If you look at the wheels, they've got peel on them. They were painted. This whole bike was painted basically at one point, but, and I hope I'm not insulting anyone, but it wasn't painted well. You can see here, fuel spill took off the paint quickly. Now that doesn't matter. Listen, painting by hand is brilliant, and this paint could have been on 10 years, so they did a good job for the time. It lasted a long time, but it's not great now, so it needs kind of loving, really. Personally, I'd go hammerite on the frame. I'd hammerite it because it's all kind of accessible. Every bit of the frame you can see is easily accessible, so I would hammerite it with a paintbrush and it'd look great, which is still an option, I guess. Right, so top it up with oil, check there's no fuel spills, top up the fuel, and then fire it up, I guess. Let me go and grab the oil and we'll start moving to the next steps on this bike. Okay guys, so have a look in the oil window there. The bike's on the stand. Stand the bike up straight, watch the oil rise. When the bike's up straight, that's where the oil is. So this one is at the top line, and I've done it right to the top line because when I run it now, it's going to refill up the filter that I emptied. So when I run this bike for a few minutes, the oil will need topping back up again. So that is the next step. I'm just going to check that one more time. So on the side stand, there's nothing. And we're at the kind of top line there. Perfect. Yep, so I'm going to run it for a couple of minutes, let it idle, just see how it all sits. Spray parts of it with some engine degreaser just to get it all ready. And then a quick spin up and down the road. If it all seems good, which it should, fingers crossed, get it down to my jet wash and give it a good blitz on that. And at some point we top up the oil again because it's going to fill up the system. Okay. The oil I use for my bikes is this one. It's from eBay. It's about 22 quid for this. It's a local UK company. I use them because they're a local UK company. It meets all the standards that we need it to meet for our bikes. Obviously there are some really high performance bikes where you'll need to double check, but I like this brand. I think Nat doesn't like this brand. I think Nat used them and found it a bit too watery. It's not watery, it's oily, obviously, but obviously if you aren't keen on it, then don't use it. But I stand by this product. I always use it on eBay, on my bike, and my bike, I mean my Bandit, just runs and runs and runs and never causes any issues. So I like this oil, and it's not the cheapest on there, believe it or not, guys. There are cheaper, but I like this brand, this company, this eBay company, and so on. Right, this is where I should be firing this bike up. Just double checking the oil again. Yep, I should be firing this bike up, letting the oil circulate, letting it all kind of warm up, and checking for fuel spill. Actually, I need to put fuel in it to check for fuel spill, don't I? So that's what I'll do next. I'll chuck some petrol in it, and we will just make sure it's all sealed there. Any spills we see, guys, is going to be from this area. No obvious signs so far. So let's keep an eye for fuel spill, and also that we keep running. At the moment we're running on what fuel was left in the carbs. We don't necessarily know that the new system is working yet. So it'll need a good 3, 4, 5 minutes to continue idling and running, and then it will need a quick test ride. seems okay at the moment. Remember last time it kind of idled and stuff okay, and then when I ran it every single time it cut out on the short journey, didn't it? So I'm going to give it another couple of minutes, and then I'm going to run it just up and down the roads to make sure it doesn't do that. So I'm going to stop the camera for now. I'm going to give it another 2 or 3 minutes to do this. I'll shut it off, I'll check the oil and give it a quick run. I'm going to check the tyres, and I'm going to tape up the bridging wires that I've done for the clutch switch and the stand for now. Okay guys, I've tightened the clutch was very loose. The oil is halfway down, which is perfect for now. Last time it would not go up and down the road, not once. It cut out every single time. At least now I can start it back up if it cuts out. So let's see, it should be solved. I believe that was the, well obviously the watery oil would have been splashing all over the place and so on. I've been idling this bike for close to 10 minutes. I've taped up all of the earth wires that I've been using. This should go up and down the road, no issue at all. Fingers crossed. Wondering, I'm aware that the number plate is still taped. I taped this number plate just to protect Sue's bike a bit. Remember, the roads I'm going on, these roads up here to the left and to the right, they are private on this private estate. Guys, it rode beautifully, absolutely pulls your arms off. Idle's a little low, I need to nip it up. I think now that it's warm, that's what happens, isn't it, when it's warming up. So now that it's warm, I'll adjust the idle. Absolutely pulls your arms. I think the engine's very happy with having decent oil. I'm going to check the coolant system. I'm going to, check the coolant system. I'm going to degrease it as much as I can to get it down. Top it up with some fuel. It might be low on fuel already. I only put a little bit in, and then get it to a jet wash, and we'll do some bits and bobs to it there and then. I'll check the tyre pressures. Oh, and it has no rear brake, so I'm going to nip up the rear brake because that was scary. So the front brakes were binding, guys, so I popped them off. They're terrible. Pistons are rusty. Pads have no padding on them. This needs a massive overhaul, that front one, so I'm going to drench it in a brake cleaner. It's going to need some WD for now as well. Remember, the WD-40 at this stage doesn't matter as long as you clean it all off at the end with brake cleaner properly. Basically we just need to save this if we can. It will probably need a rebuild kit as well, but that will be fine. So let me do the best I can do. I'm going to show you again what we've got. Look at the pistons, they're here just above my thumb. They're rusty. And then the brake pads have had it. And the carrier doesn't move at all. I'm not even sure I can save this one. I'm going to hack away at it and see if it's savable. It may not be. So it's about half an hour later. I had to sacrifice the brake pads. I had to slice them open. Not that we were going to use them again. I popped out the worst piston, the hardest one, and left the easiest one on the edge. What you do now is you put in a pair of pliers or something, you wiggle that loose and that'll pop out. And then you absolutely drench everywhere, in ins and outs, with brake cleaner. And you clean up these pistons as best as you can. Now this is what it looks like. Some people will say it's not savable. You don't know that until you've cleaned it up with some metal cleaner. some sort of scouring pad and so on. The seals seemed okay. There's one down there, it seems okay, but you don't know until you've refitted it. It doesn't hurt to buy a new seal set when you buy new pads. So let me pop this out. I'll give them a clean up. That's what that one looks like. You'll see after. I've cleaned them before, they work very well, as long as the seals are working. So that's the next step. Sometimes I've popped these out as far as they'll go. That's very close to coming out. That will pop out, I'm sure, with my grips. If you haven't popped them out as far as they can, you're screwed, because all the fluid comes out when the first one pops out. So you have to pop them both out as far as they go, you know, just before they're about to fall out, and then you pop one out. Okay, so these pistons cleaned up fine, the caliper cleaned up fine, the seals, the inner main seals are absolutely fine. I'm not sure about the outer seals yet. I'm going to clean them, put them back in, they should be fine. What happens is corrosion builds underneath the seals, normally the outer seals, and it kind of lifts them up and pushes them towards the pistons, and that stops them working properly. So you have to scrape out and clean out all of the inner here underneath the seals. You can still see bits of white there, but the majority, I mean, it is cleaned out. They're just the last kind of remnants of it. I use a little bit of grease on my pistons when I put them back in. Some people swear for it, some people swear against it. Use a tiny bit, it doesn't hurt. That's what I do. Like I said, that's an argument that people will have all day long. I just think it helps with the longevity of them and the running. As long as you're not going nuts and it's not going anywhere near the actual pads, then you'll be fine. I think this is savable, but I won't know yet. I'm going to put in the outer rings, the outer seals, clean them up, put them in. I'm going to put in the pistons themselves, and then I will look at filling up the reservoir with some oil and getting some into the system. Now look at this bleed nipple. I've put WD on that. That is going to snap. I mean, I know for a fact the second I do it, it's going to snap. However, you can bleed using the top, using this one here. So don't worry too much. I know Nat spent a lot of time looking for a new bleed nipple last week. You can bleed from here, and remember, you can bleed from the top as well just by tapping it. So don't worry too much. Don't let all this stuff put you off. You can save thousands by doing your mechanics at home like this. And they'll say, people will say, oh, but the nipple will snap. Yeah, it will snap. Look at it. So you break this one here and you bleed it, and then you bleed the last remnants by just tapping the trigger at the top like I've showed you before. So let me piece this back together as well as I can. Obviously I haven't got new pads, unless of course I have a set in there, which is no, I don't. I'll order some pads. Make sure you've cleaned out here the slide area, that's this bit here by my thumb. Clean that out, WD-40, and then put some grease in. Again, nowhere near enough grease to get on your pads. Clean these off properly. These are the runners. These are what changes the these are what stop the pads rubbing when they wear down. So let me put this back together without the pads, obviously, and at least we're halfway there. I'm still going to ride this bike around to the jet wash without touching the front brake, and I'm still going to give it a good old jet wash. Okay guys, so I'm popping right round the corner to my own jet wash. Look, I've got the front caliper up here, so don't go far at all. I've got some engine degreaser in the bag. The main thing here is to do the engine, exhaust because I'm painting it, chain area and wheels. We just need to get them a bit better, you know, basically because it needs to be cleaner before we do anything else. And then we can look at fiddly bits like bits of rust here and here and stuff. That bit's easy, and even on here, look. So let's go get it jet washed and kind of degreased, and then we'll look at where we go from there. So I'm all set up. It rode really well, by the way. Right next to my sister's car, so I can blast that full of dirt. Engine and parts degreaser, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to really work itself. Spray it on while you're setting up, while you're throwing all the jet down, the jet washer down and stuff like that. Just cake it all on and let it work its way through. Give it the actual 5 to 10 minutes. Do that a couple of times. Make sure you get the chain as well. And then I've got proper chain cleaner in the garage. but that's all kind of last stuff. So anywhere that really needs it, blast it good and proper and let it work, and then like I said, go and set up the machine. So there you go guys, it's had its jet wash. Now the jet wash brings problems on these kind of bikes as well as cleans. You see the engine was painted at some stage, so when you clean off the dirt you see the bad paint job, or the jet wash cleans a touch of the paint. Wheels came out really nice. They were stripped back at one stage and lacquered, I believe. You see that kind of dirt stain there? That's a very light lacquer. Now what would be great is if I could get that lacquer off and then just use some wax, some normal car wax on that. That will seal that up. You don't need the lacquer because the lacquer turns like that. Can you see that? You see that there? That's a very thin lacquer over the original metal wheels that were stripped back once. It will look much better just to be metal wheels. I'm going to give the chain a good going over, a good cleaning. I've got a chain product. I'll clean the spring a little bit more. I have done some already. So the wheels look nice, but then like I said, bits of the old kind of paintwork comes out. The engine, to be fair, the engine looks clean, doesn't it? This was kind of my fault and kind of not. That's a bit of petrol spill on that. If I knew I had a similar grey, I'd top it up, but I don't. And I'm not sure what Sue's doing with it, so I'll leave that to Sue. Remember, Sue, if you want me to do any more, I'm happy to matte black the whole bike, and I'll probably get it quite good. You see all this old lacquer? Look at that. That all needs stripping back. Yeah, I'll probably get it quite good, but it would be matte black or any matte colour, like I said. But don't feel like I have to. You absolutely do yours if you're set on that. That's probably the best thing to do anyway. I'm going to take away bits and pieces of just the old rough look, because the engine sounds and pulls great. There is no problems at all with this engine, I'm telling you now. It pulls your arms off actually. Tyres are good, brakes are good, everything else kind of works. We need to keep checking the oil over a little while. Let's see where it lies now. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Where is it? Halfway? Yeah, so I will top that up now. Now that's all kind of gone through. I will top that up a little bit, because we know we're back on the fuel pump now as well. The other thing I haven't checked is the cooling. I'm going to top it up. The fan spins freely, I'm sure it's fine, but I am going to top the whole system up. I've got some good coolant in the garage, and yeah, look, see this, look, tank, this thin lacquer. So at the moment, this could be a bike that passes MOT next week. Once the front brake blocks are done, I have to check everything else, lights, horns, indicators, but it don't seem far off at all. Took a while to start as I blatantly jet washed all the electrics, but I'm just letting it kind of burn itself off now, warm itself up. That'll kind of dry out all the electrics in the radiator and stuff. I'm then going to look at quickly seeing if I can clean the front wheel using a cleaner. That should bring it down. You see, again, I'll go back to it. Look, it's this. That's lacquer, that's dirty, and it's all up here. Look, I'm going to see if a brake cleaner or carb cleaner will just take that down back to metal, and then I'll put some wax on it, and that will look great and be fine. What else? And then top up the cooling system. I don't know if this has a temperature gauge. Does it anywhere? No, it's got a light. I'd like to see if the fan kicked on, but before that it needs to, I don't want to do that without checking that the cooling system's actually topped up properly. So that's next, and then I'm going to hit the exhaust with some ultra high temperature black spray, just to kind of neaten the exhaust up a bit. I'll just hold some newspaper behind it, give it a blast. This rear peg rattles with the engine on, it drives me nuts. I don't know what the options are there. Maybe just tie it up. Stop that, maybe just a cable tie around that. And Sue can pop it if she's carrying anyone. and a bit of stainless cleaner on there. So yeah, I mean, it looks a bit cleaner. It also looks a bit worse. You see where the fin lacquer, look, just peels off like that, look. I know it looks like I'm wrecking Sue's bike, but I know she's painting it again, and if she doesn't want to paint it, I'll paint it for her. But obviously priority is a good running bike with an MOT at this stage. Okay, so look at the exhaust now. That's what it looks like. It's probably a bit too hot to paint now, but the high temperature paint sometimes likes that. It just sits on much quicker and you know, sets well. And I'll get into the radiator. I've got to pop that cover, I believe, and then top up the radiator and top up the... I might actually just drain some of that fluid anyway. I've got some nice concentrated stuff that I used in the BMW. I might as well do it properly while I'm here. So yeah, let's get the exhaust done. That will make a big difference. I can picture this bike matte black now, and I think it will look really nice. Okay guys, so wrapping up for today. I mean, it's hardly the 10 years younger show, but I think the bike's looking well. The exhaust was painted black. I actually couldn't find the high temp that I bought, so I used matte black, which is okay. Normal paint is high temp, but I will burn it off, so I will make sure it's okay. But look, the exhaust looks great. I found some engine paint. Look, I've given high temp. This was high temp engine paint. I've given the engine a coat. I've polished up all of the chrome, removed any rust I could see, cleaned the front wheel as best as I could. Again on this side, cleaned up the engine with some engine paint. It looks good. Cleaned up the chain fully. The chains come out great. There are no solid links. The chain is free and accessible and works. That's great. Cleaned up the shocks actually, look. They were a bit past it. And then of course cleaned up the exhaust chrome. So actually the bones of this bike is quite good, you know. It now just needs colouring. I have no doubt it will do another couple of years if it's serviced regularly. It seems to start first time. Sounds okay. I cleaned up this shock as well. I'm just testing if the paint's okay. It will be. All paint is high temperature anyway. Honestly, the bike pulls your arms off, guys. It pulls really strong. The rear brake's great now, the front brake, I've got pads on the way. I'm not sure if I told you that earlier. I've ordered front brake pads and that caliper will be fine. I have no doubt at all, it will be fine. I haven't checked the basics. What am I doing? Let's front light, anything there? High beam, passing works. High beam, yeah, high beam works, okay. Horn. Wow, loud horn. Indicators, front left, front right. Front left, front right. Back right. Good. Back left. Good. Normal light on, rear light on. Rear brake lights. Yep, good. Front brake light. Is that, yes, good. Okay. Front shocks look fine, rear shocks are fine, no leaking. I think it'd pass an MOT at this stage. It's a shame I've got to wait till Saturday. I might get a slot, I might get some time in the evening. I don't know what time they're open till, maybe 6. Actually no, I ain't got the time in the evenings. Possibly Friday, but that don't make much difference. Unless Sue wants me to paint it black. If she wants me to paint it black, then I can probably get it MOT'd on Friday evening, get it painted on Saturday, get it back to the store on Sunday. That's if the brake pads come in time. That's if it passes the MOT. You never know with these bikes, anything could happen. So that's it for today. Not exactly a swan, but halfway there.